stop to stop that offensive would have given the Germans a bit of a time to recover. I'll also agree that the Soviets probably had too much on their plate to even care about what was happening to the Jews, and if they even knew about it, I mean, what's the difference? I think they thought. I mean, they're already dead. What are we going to do?
Right.
So their main goal, the Soviets at least, was to annihilate the Germans, to get payback for what they had done to the Russians, especially after Stalingrad. So it wasn't on the Russians' agenda, and the Americans and English didn't have access to that region.
Fair enough. Great assessment. Let's get down to troubling question C. German churches, right, the bastions of morality. They obviously knew about the death camps. Shouldn't they have issued some sort of protest? I mean, Taylor, these are our moral leaders, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, and the minute they open their mouths, they'll probably be shot or put into the camps themselves. So,
okay.
Silence is devastating, obviously. I mean, what would happen?
Yeah.
But I think you really need a wider base of support if you're going to front something like this.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm not arguing with you, Taylor, but man, for heaven's sakes, these are supposed to be our moral leaders. Shouldn't they have at least spoke out against this?
Yeah, these are our moral leaders that also led the Crusades and killed other religions that they didn't like. So I can't really say that the church can make their own opinion about killing off a different religion.
Well, that's a good point. But Hannah, don't church leaders have a moral responsibility to speak out against such atrocities?
I think it's one thing if like a citizen won't speak out. It's not necessarily their job, I'm going to say. Like they can't really do much about it. But when this is like pretty much what you're supposed to be doing in life, like guiding people and protecting them. And I mean, if you're not saying anything, why are you even there? Like you're not doing your job at all. So.
Good point. Mackenzie, I saw your hand. Doesn't Hannah have a good point?
I guess so. I'm honestly surprised there wasn't more of a conflict between the church and Hitler, and I'm sure there was because, according to Hitler, these people had no legitimate authority because he has the authority.
Right.
When developing his, supreme race, I'm sure the church didn't come into the picture very much because that would mean that somebody has divinity over him. And so I think that them speaking out would have done nothing, and I think maybe would have just produced more problems, I would say, because like Hitler could have gone against that and be like, see, nobody is exempt from this. We're going to take the churches too, especially if they would have become almost martyrs of their faith. I'm surprised they didn't take that martyr card, honestly, because you'd think they'd straight up be like, we're going to die for the church. I think had they done that, there would have been a stronger force of religion within Germany if they were showing someone sacrifice themselves. Even if it wasn't a true sacrifice, it was an inevitability, it would have appeared to be such.
Because there had to be some German civilians that were repulsed by
And
this.
looking for something.
Exactly. Excellent point. Andrew and Chad. Andrew, what do you say about this?
Well, unfortunately, historically, the German religious figures haven't been the most kind to the Jews. Going back to what Matt said in the Crusades, there were numerous occasions going to the Holy Land that they took stops in predominantly Jewish cities, massacred the entire population, and took all their money. That happened multiple times during the Middle Ages, and it's just repeating here. But we forget that although they are preachers, they're still under Nazi influence. So the preachers could have been Nazis themselves, and they could have, taken Hitler's side over the popes. They could have said, "Well, we'll preach the religion, but we'll do it on behalf of Hitler." So yes, it is their moral duty to do that, to protect the people, to speak out against it. But historically, they haven't done so in this region, and the influence of Hitler is too strong on them and of everybody else in the country. They wouldn't have gained support from people that they normally would have.
Okay, great comment. Chad, your thought on this? Don't the German churches have some moral responsibility here or not?
I definitely think they do, but I also think it wouldn't really make any difference. I mean, like the visible church leader, they speak out against the Nazis, all they have to do is kill them, and then they don't talk anymore. I think the only real way to oppose Hitler would have been through a mass popular movement of the German people that couldn't have just been suppressed that easily.
We've already seen on one of our earlier sheets, resistance against the Nazi regime was quite futile. And then there's the question about the Pope. Pope Pius XII, he has been roundly criticized, even though he's dead now, for remaining silent. You know what the Catholic Church's defense on that is? The Catholic Church has two lines of defense. Do you know what the Catholic Church says?
Well, I don't know. I have it on my own.
Well, what do you think? What do you think the Church argues? Because the Pope was silent. Here's the leader of one of the largest, global religions, and he remains silent. What do you think the Catholic Church said?
He was locked in by Hitler's greatest ally in the war, so I mean, if he says anything, the Italian troops will storm in and execute him.
All right. Well,
They don't want to die.
that makes sense, right? I mean, the Vatican's in the middle of fascist Italy, for sure. And Henry, how else do you think the Church defends the Pope?
I don't think it was really the Church's place to interfere with Hitler. I mean, they should, morally they should have, but I don't, like, as far as the Catholic Church goes, I think they're maybe more concerned about Catholics over the Jews.
That was it. That's one of the Church's lines of defense. The Pope remained silent on this because he thought that if he did speak out, Hitler would then automatically target Catholics throughout Europe, and there'd be mass persecutions of Catholics in any European country, any and all. And plus, they said, like, well, the Pope did his best. He took in Jewish refugees into the Vatican, but the Vatican is only so big, and I took in as many as I could. And so, I don't know, Mackenzie, listening to all of this, is it sort of understandable that the Pope would remain silent on this?
I think it's typical. And I'm not going to diss the Catholic Church today, but, like, they're selfish, and they're not. And honestly, in this case, I think that he may have been right in the whole Catholic targeting, but they weren't just targeting Jews. They were targeting everybody.
Right.
I think we keep looking at it like, oh, the Jews. Yeah, the Jews, but everyone. Like, they're not, I'm sure that tons of Catholics were killed. I don't think there would have been a pinpointed. I guess you can make that argument, but being Catholic, I think, is different than being Jewish, because I feel like Jewish is more a lifestyle, and Catholic is more religion. Like, Catholic is also a lifestyle, but, like, this is going to sound weird, but I think it's harder to, like, spot a Catholic. I don't know how to say it. Like, you can just, it's just like Jews have their own separate businesses and their own separate lifestyles, but, Catholics were integrated into everyday, like, culture. And so, I'm sure, I don't know,
That's okay. You know what? You have made a memorable comment. That's great. Okay. Listen, I know this is an intense conversation. May I throw one other thing at you about the Holocaust before we move on? And that is this. This is something that we need to make a discussion sheet. Would you just take a moment, and this is just a quick one-pager. It's always troubled me, frankly, that even to this day, there are some people in this world who simply deny the Holocaust happened. And hang on, would you please, just before we talk about this, take 1 or 2 quiet minutes and read this. This will tell you who the deniers are, what their denials are, and how you can rebut the deniers of the Holocaust. Would you just take a minute or 2 and read this? And I'd like to ask you